Okay, let's get started. I see we're over the 50 mark on the attendees. So good morning if you're joining us from Germany, from Europe. Good afternoon if you're joining us here in the UAE or east of us here, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Joe Hepworth. I'm the Regional Director for OCO Global. This webinar we're hosting with our partners at AHK, the German Emirati Joint Council for Industry and Commerce. And the title is The Future of Expo 2020 Dubai, and we're delighted to be joined by our friends from District 2020 and by senior representatives from Siemens. Next slide, please, Laura. We've got a high caliber panel to present to you. So after myself, I will introduce, we've got two Olivers. So Herr Ohms, Oliver Ohms, who's the CEO of AHK here in Dubai, and then Herr Kraft, who is the Executive Vice President of Siemens at Expo 2020 Dubai. And then we have the Vice President of the Transition Unit District 2020, Nadima Mehra. So welcome to you all. Thank you for giving your time today. After the presentations, there is the opportunity for Q&A from the audience. Please use the chat bar, the comment section there, so we can capture your questions and answer those towards the end of the presentation. And we'll use the next hour to really go through some of the very exciting things that are happening here post-Expo. Expo starts in less than 6 months from now. But in a year's time, as Expo transitions to District 2020, and what's happening there, and what big companies like Siemens are doing around that, and how you can get involved as a German company. Next slide, please. Just 2 seconds on OCO Global and why we're here. So we're a trade and investment advisory company. We've been working with District 2020 for over 2 years now, helping to promote District 2020 to exciting companies around the world. We work with governments and companies, helping them to internationalize and grow their overseas footprints. Next slide, Laura. In Germany, we have a team of 12 headquartered in Frankfurt. We also have offices around Europe, including in the UK, in France, and in Paris. And next slide, please. Here in the Middle East, we've got a team of 12, an office here in Dubai, where we work across the region supporting trade and investment. Next slide. So I'm now going to hand over to Oliver Ohms. Next slide, please, Laura, who is the CEO for AHK here. Oliver's been in the region for some time there, and we'll share these slides afterwards so you can read Oliver's CV. But if you can go to the next slide, Laura. Oliver's going to tell us a little bit about AHK in the region, and what I would say there is also that as OCO Global, we're a very proud member of AHK, both here and back in Germany, and I think it plays an important role in facilitating trade and investment between Germany and the UAE. So Oliver, if I can hand over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Joe. Thanks for this joint event. It's a cooperative event. Well, I keep it very brief when talking about AHK, but definitely I would also very briefly share with you our thoughts on how the UAE is going to emerge, not only from the crisis, but also what's happening, obviously, after Expo 2020. The map is a little bit cryptic, but it just will show you, number one, we are not in charge of Saudi Arabia. I've been at the helm of the AHK office in Riyadh before moving to Dubai. We are neither in charge of our neighboring country in the east, but we are in charge for practically all the rest, ranging from Iraq, then crossing Kuwait and Qatar, then finally the UAE and Oman. So altogether, we are managing 7 offices across the region with 30 people working in our team. Needless to mention, AHK, it's a private, not-for-profit organization, for those of you not being familiar with the network. But it's an organization which is mandated by the Federal Republic of Germany, with acting as a bridge between the business community of our host countries, in our case, and of course with the community back home in Germany. It's a member-owned, I have to say, but also a member-driven organization, which is beautifully mirrored by our board, comprising equally of Emirati board members and German senior business representatives. Last but not least, Expo 2020 is not only close to our hearts, but one of the senior management representatives of the Expo team has been in our board for many years, Maha Al-Gagawi, and we're very proud and pleased that Maha, she will continue serving as an honorary board member of AHK for the next 2 years. That's excellent news. Well, AHK, it's, as I mentioned, members-owned organization. We are currently representing some 450 corporate members here in the UAE. Needless to mention that Siemens is not only an ordinary member, but also a member of the board of directors, the Siemens family, if I may say so. But we are equally representing a good number of small, but also medium-sized companies across all sectors. And this already underlines the importance of the UAE as a hub, not only for the Gulf region or the GCC countries plus Iran and Iraq, which you see on the map in front of you, but increasingly we sense that the UAE and especially Dubai and Abu Dhabi are serving a region at large. In many cases, this includes the whole of Africa, the African continent with its many potentials and opportunities. But needless to mention that many companies are reaching out to Afghanistan and Pakistan in the east. Therefore, we see that the role of the UAE as a hub for a larger region has been gaining importance and relevance, not only through the crisis, but this is a development which we have been able to observe already in the last couple of years. My feeling is, after many discussions with our members, that this development has been accelerating due to the crisis. I don't dare to say thanks to the crisis, but due to the crisis, as first of all, companies were forced to rethink and re-establish, if needed, the international BD, business development and sales and service network. This helped to elevate, so to say, the importance of the UAE here in the region. And secondly, and that's an important thing I would like to mention on this occasion, the UAE just managed the whole situation extremely well. And this is not only true for the health situation, the institutional situation here in the UAE, but I would like to extend this on the infrastructure at large. This obviously includes the IT landscape, telecommunication and software infrastructure, but also the physical infrastructure, including the port infrastructure, customs infrastructure, and so on and so on. Well, I had the pleasure to be every week in a call with a global network of AHKs or German chambers abroad. We have been talking about supply chains, interrupted supply chains, distorted supply chains. And I always had to keep very quiet and silent because talking about the UAE, I have to say the supply chains were in order, they remained in order, and thanks God they will stay in order. So we think that the UAE is well prepared for what is happening in the next couple of years. We are excited to see that a new wave of small companies, especially small German companies, came to the UAE in the last couple of months to explore opportunities here in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, not only because the weather is so beautiful, but the regulatory environment has been shaped, polished significantly recently. And last but not least, we see that UAE provides for an exciting business environment, a fantastic ecosystem for small and medium-sized companies across all service industries. So we are excited to be here. We are very curious to see and witness what's happening with District 2020. And having said this, I return the microphone to Joe, I guess.
Brilliant. Thank you, Oliver, and thank you again for your team support to put this webinar on. We had 119 registrations this morning, which I think is testament A, to your network, and B, to the interest in the subject here. And I think you touch on a number of interesting points there that I'm sure Nadima and Oliver are going to develop around the resilience factor, and I think we're all looking forward to Expo and then District 2020 being that sort of recovery and rebuild event later in the year, and also that whole regional connectivity and play that you can access from Dubai, from District 2020 across the whole of Africa and South Asia. So thank you for bringing that up and the nice weather. Next slide, please. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Nadima Mehra, who is going to sort of take us through the next part of the presentation. Nadima will talk a lot about the work that she and the District 2020 team have been doing with Oliver Kraft and the Siemens team. So Nadima, if I can hand over to you now, and I think you're going to introduce Oliver and take us through the next stage, please.
Sure. Thank you so much, Joe, and thank you, Oliver, for that interesting summary of AHK. We definitely are aligned with a lot of the subjects that you covered, and we'll cover that a little bit in our conversation. But before that, I'm delighted to introduce Oliver Kraft, who's the Executive Vice President, Expo 2020 at Siemens, Dubai. And he's joining us here today to discuss key market roles, an innovation-driven vision, and the importance of a human-centric community. But before we get into the discussion about these exciting topics, I will leave Oliver to give you an introduction about Siemens and their Expo 2020 Dubai partnership and why they chose to be part of District 2020, which is the future development of Expo 2020 Dubai. Oliver, over to you.
Thank you very much, Nadima. Can you all hear me? Okay, super. Yeah, then I would say let's start the presentation. Thank you for the introduction and the warm words, and I feel honored to be part of that discussion. I've been here in Dubai since the year 18, and I before I came here, I always thought that New York City, where I also lived, would be the most international, most diverse city in the world, but Dubai proved me wrong. But with that being said, I would like to jump into the presentation already, please. If you could go, please, to the first slide. And then the next one, please. Yes, there we go. Okay, so Expo 2020. And when it will open its gates on October 2021, it will not be only the biggest mega event in the world, a place for fun and happiness, but also especially a place for, well, let's say, a platform for dialogue and collaboration, for technology innovation. And we need to go back one slide, please, for the world's greatest innovators, inventors, for entrepreneurs, for families, but also for people like you and me, and pretty much for everyone who has high hopes for the future. Now, with a site designed from day one to live on a legacy and able to host up to 300,000 visitors per day, twice the size of Monaco, Expo 2020 will not only face the challenges of a mega event, but those of a city district. And for Siemens as a partner, a premier partner for infrastructure digitalization of Expo, the key question which both parties needed to answer was which technologies should we use in order to create a holistic smart city use case, thinking of District 2020, and we will come to that later. So together with Expo, we decided to focus on top priorities for visitors and operators and future inhabitants in smart cities. And these are safety and security. These are quality of life, sustainability, and resilience. If you could please go to the next slide. Now, in the area of resilience, I'm more than happy to share here that our colleagues from Siemens Healthineers, they introduced a rapid COVID test, by the way, to the market. And we are right now also in discussions with Expo. It's a 15-minute test, actually, and it has an accuracy of 97%. In the area of safety and security, we decided to implement a solution called Surveillance Control Pro. It's a command and control solution for physical security, or in other words, for situational awareness and incident management. And with up to 15,000 cameras and 150 operators, it will be the largest, let's say, Control Pro / command and control solutions for Siemens to date. And it will help to keep up to 300,000 visitors per day safe and secure. And the same, of course, applies to the operators and all the other stuff from the partners like Siemens. And this system, of course, will be fully integrated with a number of other third-party systems, including Dubai Police, Civil Defense, RTA, etc. We are also implementing site-wide access control with our CPaaS solution, where we will connect up to 5,500 doors. Now, in the area of quality and comfort, our building management system will help to monitor and optimize comfort and energy usage in the 3 thematic districts. And that includes HVAC, sensors, controllers, for ventilation and air conditioning. And with our building management platform, Desego, we will connect 21 individual subsystems and utilize data from 210,000 data points. In the area of sustainability, we will connect more than 137 buildings with an energy analytics platform called Navigator. It's also powered by Mindsphere. I will come to that in a sec. And we will also provide a substation. We actually did in the mobility district to optimize the energy power supply in terms of availability, reliability, and also sustainability. And finally, just last week, we inaugurated the first green hydrogen storage solution in the UAE via the installation of Siemens technology at the MBR Solar Park, the biggest solar park in the world. Now, all of what I just mentioned has something in common, and that is connectivity. And connectivity uses a raw material that surrounds us all the time, and that's called data. And data is the foundation for transforming a city into a smart city, and a district into a smart district. And every asset in such environment, in such a community like Nadima and team are creating together with our help and the other partners are data generation machines, basically the assets. So, and it's one thing to collect big data, it's another one to make use of them. And then sometimes the question comes, so why Siemens? Does Siemens stands for software development, for data, for IoT, etc. Well, I can say we have a unique advantage, if you allow me that advertisement, by combining the domain know-how, because we produce things. We own more than 200 manufacturing facilities, but with know-how when it comes to in-house data analytics and IoT, because we are the second largest software company in Europe. Now, coming back to the actual topic, for making intelligent use comprehensively of data and turn it into value, you need the Internet of Things. In order to understand data, turn it into value, which I already explained. And in Expo and in the future District 2020's case, that's called Mindsphere. And that's what you see on the slide in the upper part. Mindsphere is a Siemens IoT operating system. It's comparable to the IoT, to the operating system on your smartphone. Okay, but of course it's in an industrial scale, right, application. And we will bring Expo's infrastructure onto the Internet of Things, and basically we will connect the digital with the physical world. And what we will do is we will analyze, of course, first collect, then analyze, correlate, and visualize Siemens and non-Siemens data. It does not matter which system it is. As long as we can connect it, it has connectivity functions, we can harvest the data. And that will allow intelligent decision-making and even predictive. And that means also that we will not stop by providing just a platform, our cloud-based IoT operating system, but we will also develop a smart city application for Expo and District 2020. And if you could please go to the next slide. And what you can see here, and for the considering the time available, I do not show you how that system actually works. But what I want to highlight here is what you see are use cases, in total 16 in 5 domains, except for mobility, which we co-created together with Expo 2020. And let me just pick a few. And co-creation plays a major role. Co-creation, by the way, is also for us a central element of our ecosystem of partners we're going to join in District 2020, but we will come to that a little bit later. So let me pick just a few of these examples here, like air quality indoors and outdoors. We monitor the air quality in 5 outdoor zones and 25 indoor zones. We compare it with predefined thresholds, and we are using weather data like wind speed, particulate matter, humidity, and so on in order to allow early warnings in terms of, hey, we expect a dust storm. You, Mrs. Operator, please move the visitors inside during that, before the sandstorm actually arrived. Another topic is smart irrigation water. I mean, globally, 70% of all water used is used for irrigation, and 60% of that gets regularly lost globally. Now, there are many, many reasons for that. And of course, there's also burst pipes and leakages, and there's theft. With our system, we want to monitor irrigation, and we want to ensure that any kind of abnormality will be detected early on. And the same applies also to the water quality, where we measure the components like chloride, copper. Just imagine contaminated water during Expo. Yeah, it would be a catastrophe. Now, noise control is the third one I want to pick, because that is also of relevance to our communities where we are living. And it will be of relevance also for District 2020, I believe. So Expo has predefined noise limits for several Expo zones. And with Mindsphere IoT, the operator is able to monitor the noise level and quickly identify from where the noise actually comes. And on the next slide, I would like to show you one screenshot of how the application actually looks like. And the application is for the operator. It's not for like you and me. It's for the operator with different roles and responsibilities, etc. But all of the use cases I've shown you before are part of that smart city application, which is nothing else than a digital twin of the Expo site. And of course, the level of detail there, it's limitless, but the level of detail depends on the willingness to put data in, of course. Now, all of that co-created, and that allows smart decision making. And that is the ultimate purpose of IoT. And the way it works is the operator will be able, using that app, to compare zones, districts, buildings, and can even drill down to the floor and room. Like, for example, if they want to figure out what is the water consumption, what is the energy consumption, what is the air quality, or what is the noise level, for example. Now, and then in addition to that, we set up a system of alarms and notification that you can see here also on that slide. Here we simulated the detection of a water leakage, and if the threshold will be reached, then a notification will be sent out by the system to the operator. It's kind of indicated by a yellowish alarm or notification, and if the threshold has already been reached, then it will turn into red. And in this case, in this particular case, the operator will be able to actually switch off the valve, which is sitting maybe in that particular room or is close to the particular room or wherever the incident occurred, by just sitting in front of the screen. And that's called bidirectional functionality in IoT. Now, last but not least, we are getting also closer to the topic of District 2020. Let's go to the next slide, please. As the host for the global mega event, Dubai's government, and specifically District 2020, sought long-term partners to develop a high-tech, sustainable greenfield site designed from day one to become Dubai's smart and sustainable innovation district, called District 2020, and legacy, with 80% of the buildings or the investments made during Expo for the event phase still existing. And as an anchor tenant, and we are very proud that we will have 2 buildings close to Al-Wasl, directly at the world's largest video projection screen. An impressive building. I think it's 60 meters tall and 130 meters in diameter. Numbers differ. So as an anchor tenant of District 2020, we will become part of a future ecosystem of partners. And that allows us, as a global conglomerate with presence in 190 countries, to help to further develop Dubai's knowledge economy, which in the end is about stimulation of innovation and last but not least, positively impacting business generation and job creation in the UAE and in the entire region. And by the way, last sentence to that, I'm also very proud to share that already during the event phase, we will have the chance to showcase technology to make digitalization enjoyable and visible in our 800 square meter experience center on the third floor of one of the 2 future Siemens buildings. And with that being said, I would like to close my introduction to what we're doing at Expo and hand back to, I guess, Nadima directly.
Sure. Thank you so much, Oliver, for that interesting and in-depth discussion on MindSphere, which is something that District 2020 is very excited about, as you know. I'm going to take a little bit of your time to explain what our vision for District 2020 is and how our partners like Siemens plays such a big role in the creation of this future forward city. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about myself. I've been in Dubai for about 19 years now, and I've primarily been in the real estate or investment in real estate. And this has been a really unique opportunity for me because while it's a real estate project, it's, you know, that's really just the foundation on which we're building a much stronger rhetoric around the future strategy of not only Dubai, but the United Arab Emirates. Next slide, please. So District 2020 is a city that will become a human-centric, smart, and sustainable community. And I think that word is really important. And when we say sustainable, it goes back to the word that that Joe used, which I think has become one of my favorite words in the last year, which is resilience. And I think that as future developers, we all think of resilience and building for a resilient future, ensuring that we are nimble enough to react to any challenge that comes our way, whether it's economic, digital, or any other challenge. Next slide. Now, I think a very important component for us is while we're repurposing 80% of the infrastructure that has been built for the Expo, and just to give you an idea, the development is built. So we always like to say that we've built a city that will host an event for 6 months. The event goes away, but the city remains. So we have about 2 million square feet of gross floor area that has already been built and will be occupied by countries and other Expo participants for 6 months. And then the event finishes and we take over the building and the site itself. And it's really a city within a city. And the most important component of that is the ecosystem that we're developing that is so important for companies like Siemens and some of our other anchor tenants that are coming in, and really providing a launch pad, as Oliver Ohms had mentioned, for it's not really the market of Dubai or the market of UAE that you're looking at, it's the entire region that you're looking at expanding into, but you're using Dubai and District 2020 as the launch pad. Next slide. So, you know, we are looking for developing a long-term platform for innovation, partnership, and industry growth. Germany, of course, is ranked 4th as the most innovative economy, which is critical to Dubai and our long-term vision as the government of Dubai, and what we would like to accomplish from an innovation standpoint as well. The UAE is the most innovative country in the Arab world, so there's a natural connection there. Strategic trade and investment ties between UAE and Germany is there. Germany is one of our most important trading partners, and we facilitate about 30% of German trade with other Arab countries. And cooperation in you know, the fourth revolution, the growth sectors that we're looking at, R&D, academic, government bodies, technology, etc. Next slide. So this is just to give you an idea of what the development will become post-event. And you're probably looking at about a 20 to 25 year view here when you're looking at it. But if you just look at the central Al-Wasl dome and focus out in the petals, that's really the area that I'm talking about that has already been developed. So Siemens, as Oliver mentioned, is taking two buildings that are right next to the Al-Wasl dome, and then we've got residential districts that are behind it and additional commercial areas. I think something really unique and special about District 2020 is a lot of the cultural elements of Expo 2020 Dubai will be retained. So not only are we repurposing a lot of the infrastructure that's been built, but we're actually keeping key assets so that visitors, residents, and people coming to the site enjoy those cultural icons for generations to come. One of the key elements that we're keeping is the Sustainability Center, which is called Terra and becomes a Children and Science Center. The UAE Pavilion, which is designed by Calatrava, remains as a cultural icon. The Mobility Pavilion, which is a gorgeous building, is designed by Foster's, remains as a cultural icon, a cultural museum around mobility. And a lot of these have very short transition periods because they've been built to accommodate for visitation. We just have to tweak it a bit and it's open for public. We have the metro that stops right at the Dubai Exhibition Center, which will be there. It's about 48,000 square meters of exhibition space, grade A exhibition space. It's already built, will be operational during the Expo and will remain as an exhibition center post-Expo. And the metro stops there and you can just access the development through a very short walk into District 2020. One key area that I'm going to stop here for is the transition, because I think that is a little, it's a little confusing for people because it hasn't really been done. We have the privilege as a mega event of building a city on a blank canvas, and that city is hosting an event. And so as we do that, the transition then from event to an actual mixed use community is very short. You're talking about 6 to 9 months before we open our doors to the first phase of our tenants. And that will only continue to grow over time. Next slide. So we're midway between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and we're often referred to as the little sister of Abu Dhabi and the little sister of Dubai because of our close proximity to both. We're about 45 minutes away from Dubai International Airport, 45 minutes away from Abu Dhabi International Airport. We're right next to Maktoum International Airport, and Jebel Ali Ports is just down the road. It's a 10-minute drive down the road from where we are. So we're strategically located within the growth corridor of Dubai. Next slide. I get asked oftentimes, and I will ask Oliver this question as well, is what's so special about District 2020 and why, with all the amazing developments that are in Dubai and the UAE, why would I choose District 2020 as the future home of our headquarter in the Middle East, North Africa region? And, you know, my answer to that question is, yes, we have incredible public realm and office space, and it's community focused, and it's mixed use, and it's integrated. But I think beyond that, what's really important is our innovation ecosystem and the amazing technology infrastructure that we retain from Expo. The entire site is 5G. We have 2 points of presence, which reduces latency. We have a direct line from Fajeda, an internet cable that connects us. So during the event, we are the most connected place in the world during that 6-month event. And that digital infrastructure remains, and that remains and is beneficial to tenants that are moving in. It's beneficial for our sustainability goals and ensuring that we're future-proofed as a development, and we're a platform to enable our tenants to grow in. And so I think that's really important. And the innovation ecosystem is also critical. So we're curating the types of tenants or partners that come into District 2020 because we want them to be able to leverage and collaborate off of each other. And that will then ultimately, while it will benefit the companies that are in District 2020, it will benefit Dubai and the UAE because of new industry growth and job creation. Next slide. So just to give you a little bit of an idea about what I mean by curated innovation ecosystem is we look at specific industries that are very important to Dubai, the UAE, and the region. This has undergone a lot of analysis to determine what is really key as growth sectors for the region to grow in, and that's smart logistics, smart mobility, and smart cities. And those, of course, will be enhanced and disrupted by technology, which is big data, IoT, AI, 3D printing, robotics, etc. And so we want to kind of create this space where industry and technology can collaborate together, and through proximity, because you're right next to each other, that collaboration occurs much more easily. And as new companies that are coming into a new market, it eases the entry into the market because you're going into an established space that is focused on ensuring the success of those companies that are coming in. And the third column, which is enablers, is as an innovation ecosystem, we need accelerators and incubators. We need co-working spaces, research and education, and VC to enable that to happen. And we're using a triple helix innovation model for that, where it's business, it's government, and it's education that then creates this value within District 2020. We are a free zone, and but again, we're not your typical free zone. This is something that we're working on to ensure that it's very easy to access, it's very easy to set up, and it's not cost prohibitive. Another thing that we're working on, which is a pet project actually, is creating a living lab, or what we call an urban lab. And that's where we allow tenants to be able to co-create with each other, using the citizens of District 2020, utilizing academia and funding, etc. And we create that platform to allow specific industries and technologies the ability to test their products before they take it to market. And that's something very unique and doesn't really exist within this region. Next slide. Our offices are designed as state-of-the-art offices, and we had to design them to be very flexible because they're hosting an event for 6 months. And you can see that internally, the floor spaces they can accommodate small businesses, they can accommodate larger businesses, and they're very flexible and will be available starting in October for handover to tenants to be able to start October 2022 for tenants to begin to actually start fitting them out. Next slide. So that state-of-the-art digital and physical infrastructure, the cultural element, and of course, I think one thing we all learned during this 1 year where our lives were disrupted, companies were disrupted, is the fact that we do have to look at ourselves as a community, and we have to be able to be positioned to react to that. And as organizations, we have to consider how that's going to impact us. Are we going to look at a hybrid model moving forward? If we are looking at a hybrid model, where do companies want to be located? What is it that their employees want so that they are able to feel like they're part of a community, even if they are a little bit isolated sometimes? And so, again, that's where District 2020 and looking at the future of developments in public realm and the future of a smart city, and that blueprint for a smart city will enable the citizens, visitors, tenants, etc., to look at District 2020, live within District 2020 as a community that is built for resilience. Next slide. So we do have parks and green spaces during the Expo. Those will immediately be available post-Expo for the community. We are the first community within the region that will be WELL certified. And WELL certified is something where if you're looking at LEED Platinum or LEED Gold or LEED Silver for buildings, and that talks about the sustainability element of the buildings, WELL focuses on how the humans are within those buildings. And so we're not only certifying our buildings as WELL certified, we're certifying the entire community as WELL certified. And that, so we're creating bike lanes and an autonomous vehicle route to enable mobility, and increasing the ability for physical activity and exercise within the community itself. All our buildings are LEED certified, and we're very proud of that. And that extra step to wellness, I think, is important. While I heard that great weathers, Oliver mentioned great weather. It is great weather for about 7 months of the year, and then the other 5 is quite warm. So we have to build for that in mind. And we've built where the buildings are self-shading. The public realm itself becomes degrees cooler when you're in the public realm versus outside of the public realm. And we've got shade structures. We have mature trees that have already been planted and grown, and natural ventilation all throughout the public realm of District 2020. Next slide. Scale to Dubai is a great project that we launched about 2 years ago. And if you can go to the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about this because I think it's important that we focus on how we can help global companies that are ready to launch into other markets be able to come with a soft landing. And so Scale to Dubai will allow for that to happen. And we're going to give, for example, 2 years of free office space within District 2020 to those types of companies that will actually apply to the Scale to Dubai program. And I encourage those of you that are interested, that you feel would meet the criteria, to take a look at our website and learn more about Scale to Dubai on there, because it is a great program. And it talks about how, as a global community, we're all going to start working together on Industry 4.0. And with that, I'd like to start a little conversation with Oliver, who I've had the privilege of working with for quite a while now. And it's wonderful to work with like-minded individuals. I think it adds a lot to the project. We've shared a focus, Oliver, on creating a blueprint for a smart city. And that seeks to utilize technology to enhance the living and working experience of the community. So I'm interested to know how Siemens will play a key role in this in District 2020.
Thanks, Nadima. See, the partnership between Expo and therefore District 2020 and Siemens is what I consider, by the way, a prime example for a public-private partnership in a smart city, smart community area. Does not only include technology implementation, but also, as you know, our commitment to become an anchor tenant of a smart city district. But it's not just renting a space. We are excited to become part of what you mentioned earlier, a newly created ecosystem of partners. And as a company with a very long history, with thousands of partners and suppliers and customers, of course, we are used to working ecosystems. And these days, there are no companies out there which can do it all alone. Okay, maybe some are a little bit bigger, like ours, and they can cover more scope. But in essence, we believe in partnering. And for example, in MindSphere alone, I talked about IoT operating system. We have something what we call MindSphere World, where we have up to 400, no, I shouldn't say up to, we have about 450 partners. And that includes also competitors. And becoming part of such an ecosystem means, yes, we are willing to continue to partner with our competitors and to compete with our partners. But there's another very important element, which is very interesting for us when you talk, Nadima, about a smart ecosystem. And that is, District 2020 is going to be a place which is great for networking, great for co-innovating and co-creation, for co-innovating ideas jointly, for creating new partnerships, for investments, and also for opening up new businesses. And all of that in a place with a very high quality of life. So actually, I'm looking forward, me personally, to enjoy the 45,000 square meters of parks and greens, so to say. And eventually, all of that serves a purpose. It will result in additional business, and it will also help to develop a knowledge economy in the UAE. And we are very proud to be one of the key members of that new community.
Thanks, Oliver. So, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned the word community, because I think that's truly how we look at ourselves. And how do you define a human-centric smart community? And how do you see that adding value to your operations and employees at Siemens?
Yeah. See, there is no unified definition out there, as you know. That's why I appreciate that you asked me how I would define it. I mean, there are two major parts which are essential, I would say, in a smart community, smart city, smart district, whatever you want to call it. It's technology and it's people. And you cannot consider a smart community smart unless it revolves around humans. And technology, whether it's air quality sensors, whether it's cameras to analyze habits in public places, whatever it is, technology is there to serve the people. For example, by improving services, by enabling inclusion of, for example, food transparency and information availability. We are all used to 24/7 information availability. And that also, by the way, allows inclusion if you do it right, especially IoT. And inclusion in the end drives happiness in these communities. Now, but coming back to your question, how do I see or how would I define a human-centric smart community? Well, I can tell you, I would know when I live in a human-centric smart community, when the technology improves my life and the life of my colleagues and families so significantly that our lives become better and easier. And here's the second interesting part. And I want to quote Mark Weiser, dated 1991. And he says, yes, life become better and easier, but with technology woven into the fabric of our everyday life and indistinguishable from it, then we live in a smart community. Just think about our smartphone. It's so common and we don't even notice it. We notice only if you can't use it. And that is true also for technology in smart communities.
That's very true. And how do you think that Siemens, how do you think that this, so you do know a lot about District 2020. How do you think that that's going to add value to your operations and employees?
I truly believe that. I mean, first of all, work and life, they are inseparable, okay? And the boundaries are very blurry these days, I would say. And for our employees, it's a great chance actually to experience how it is to work and live in an innovative and inclusive smart city district, like you described, which is registered under the WELL standard. So it's about well-being. And if people feel well, then they are normally very productive. So as I said, I'm looking forward to enjoying these 45,000 square meters of parks and green spaces, and walking outside during the nice months, of course, in District 2020. And as I said, we're looking forward to becoming part of that ecosystem. And I hope that based on the idea of co-creation, that we will be able to come up with other great ideas by working together with the small and medium enterprises. District 2020, together with our support, will bring on board, hopefully.
Okay. We look forward to welcoming you to the green spaces, Oliver. We'll go jogging together down the paths. How do you envision, and this is a question I've asked many people because it's different from company to company, but in a post-pandemic context, how do you envision the working environment to evolve or change, or will it? And do you feel that there will be an increasing blend of virtual and physical? Do you see that falling off a bit? How do you see this happening for Siemens?
First of all, I believe in remote working. And our conference here, our panel, is the best example of it. And means working from everywhere, anywhere, elsewhere in the world. And it became one element in today's work environment, and will continue in the future working environment. And of course, it's technology enabled. Without technology, it would not be possible. We would not see each other. We could not connect. And that's why also, by the way, the Internet of Things is so important, because this here connects us as humans, but with IoT, we connect assets, and we connect also between humans and technology now, and assets. So, but it's only half of the equation. The other half is, which remains equally important, and that goes back also to the topic of human centricity. There is the need for physical presence and social interaction. And in Siemens, we recommend our employees to spend about 50% of their work time in the office, which allows them to interact, to socialize with others. Yes, of course, with the current set of rules, right? With respect to distancing, etc. And it's one important element of giving back to our employees, and therefore also to society, because in the end, our employees are the society, or let's say are part of the society, is such a flexibility that they can decide in alignment with their line manager, not the CEO saying, oh yeah, you got to be here and there. No, the team decides. And that flexibility is, of course, based on empowerment and trust to get the job done. It does not matter where you work, except for that you still need to go to the office in order to socialize and interact. And as part of human nature, we actually do that. We love to interact with other people face to face. Now, let me share one other observation. Last time when I checked, one of my mentees came to me and she asked me about a special job in Siemens. And so I read the job requisition, the job offer. It was interesting to see that job allowed the candidate to choose the location between Munich, Zug, or London. And that I found pretty much amazing, because it tells you exactly how today's working environment actually will be filled with life made a reality, at least within Siemens.
That's very interesting. Thank you for that viewpoint, Oliver. One last question, real quick, is why was it so important for Siemens to be part of a like-minded, innovation-driven ecosystem of different sized businesses and entities? What was so important about that for you?
Yeah, see, there are multiple elements to that, and a little bit I already answered, but let me summarize that. I mean, again, our engagement with Expo and District is not just putting technology together. We have a strong self-interest, of course, to showing to the world that a smart city creation actually works. The smart city use case, and with all the benefits for the people. And what I mentioned earlier, it's it's amazing that we have the opportunity as employees and also as employer to join that ecosystem of partners. And I'm sorry if I repeat myself, but I believe in ecosystem and partnerships. And as I said, we partner with competitors and we compete with partners. And I truly believe that partnership is the way to go in the digital age, because we need to move away from a supplier-customer specification and tender-based, tenders will be still out there, don't get me wrong, relationship toward a partnership in order to create win-win situations. And the beauty is, if you're part of such an ecosystem and you start co-creation discussions, and normally you start with a discovery workshop, and I did that with many customers, you also got to have the courage, based on trust, based on proximity to your partners in that ecosystem, to say no. No, I can go until here, and then no, we need to go separate ways. That's the beauty. So eventually it comes down to the excitement, my excitement and the company's excitement to engage in new partnerships and eventually stimulate innovation and growth. And if you do that, if you are profitable, if you do it in a profitable way, then you can give back in the end to your people and therefore to society. Yeah, so it's super interesting actually.
Thanks, Oliver. It is. It's about partnership, I think, and collaboration. I definitely agree with you. And with that, I don't have any further questions for Oliver. Joe, if you would, I'm going to pass it over to Joe.
Super, thank you. And thank you both for a fascinating discussion there. We are wrapping up in 2 minutes. I know everyone's time is tight. Can you just go to the next slide, please, Laura? And we'll just have this on. We have one received. So all the speakers have kindly consented to provide their contact details here. So if there's anything that you've heard today or you'd like to hear more about, please feel free to get in touch with everybody directly. I mean, that's really the whole point of it. And as Oliver and Nadima were talking about there, it's all about open source, open collaboration ecosystems. So it's important you get involved. I do want to address ask one question that we received from Felicita Hornung, and I'm just going to read this out because I don't think the rest of the attendees saw it. Are there plans yet to have an innovative collaborative health centre servicing the community and also researching new technology in pilot projects? Siemens is showcasing such technology at Arab Health, and it would be a major attraction to have your high-value workforce, cared for on the highest level. So I think sort of, Nadima, if you can talk a little bit maybe about healthcare for the community, and then Oliver perhaps just talk about whether Siemens has any plans or involvement on that.
Sure. So because we're building a city, healthcare and clinics, et cetera, will definitely be part of that. And we're in discussions right now with a few different entities to see which is the right fit. But we would like it to be a little bit cutting edge and a little bit different than the normal clinics in healthcare. Oliver?
Yeah, see, of course, we are working closely with our colleagues from Health Engineers. If there would opportunities open up, we would be the first ones to have a discussion, especially based on a very close relationship between District 2020 and Siemens. And I truly believe that healthcare in Dubai is already very, very much advanced. And as I shared earlier, I'm very happy that we just recently introduced our rapid COVID test, which I consider of utmost importance to Expo 2020. And right now they're reviewing it. We also had discussions with other Expo partners. And I don't know if you know, dear audience, there is a family of about 12 premier partners, and there are many official, what we call partners and official providers, so to say. And so, yeah, I think that we can add definitely to the topic of resilience in addition to the other technology, which I explained, and also with our healthcare technology.
Thank you. Thank you. It's gone 1 o'clock here, 11 o'clock in Germany. So I think it's time we wrap up now. So firstly, I'd like to thank all of our attendees today. Thank you for giving your time and joining us. I hope that's been useful. We've recorded this and we'll send it out so you can refer to it later. You've got the contact details there. But in particular, my thanks to Oliver Ohms and the team from AHK for facilitating and giving us this platform to engage through your network and your members. Thank you. Oliver Kraft from Siemens, I think we're all even more excited now about coming out and seeing, or probably not seeing, but knowing what's going on in the background. I hope there aren't any leaks, but we know if they are, we know they'll be dealt with. And Nadima, lovely to see you again. Thank you for introducing to the German audience what's happening at District 2020 and all of the exciting things that German companies can be a part of as this project develops. So with that, we'll conclude. Thank you very much, and I wish you a good day ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Thank you.